Good evening and welcome to our budget workshop. I don't have an agenda or anything, so.
It just says budget workshop.
Okay, well then.
We didn't
No,
waste
we
the
need to do
paper.
the pledge though.
Yep.
I didn't print it because I'm a cheat.
I don't want to waste the paper.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Any changes to the agenda? Motion to accept the agenda?
So
I don't know
moved.
about the gate.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Budget workshop session.
All right, well, I think, given the initial percentage and the shock value of the initial percentage, Vicki worked very tirelessly the last couple of days to make sure we had default to put forward, just so you could see that number as well. And we can certainly talk through the things that aren't included, or, aren't included in the default that are in the current. But I think we should jump into the 1100s unless anybody would like to start in a different spot. But Laura Dealey is ready to roll, so do you want the default pages now? Yes? Have them in your books?
Yes.
Perfect.
It's just one page.
Instead of printing the entire budget, because we know it's going to change multiple times, you just printed the front page summary, so you could see the overall function codes and where those are.
Thank you.
Is that for me?
Yes, as long as passing it along.
Sorry. Zone, zone.
Oh, thank you. No, thank you.
All right, so we'll let Laura jump in. She's gonna flip to her section, her ECLC tab, and she's gonna give you an overview of any significant increases or decreases, and we'll kind of march through and do that with each of the buildings and see where that takes us.
So just looking at that first page, the notes and rationales, lists general supplies, unified arts, et cetera. Basically, we're just looking to increase general supplies by 1,000, and then the rest are either no change or decreases. A decrease in language arts, supplies and materials, decrease in math. Everything else is really just staying the same. The kind of feeling and thinking as I talked to staff and met with teams is that we really feel supported and have all the stuff we need. We have materials, we have supplies. We've really, over the years, kind of added a little bit to the general supplies, because our building is a lot of general supplies. We use a lot of glue, glitter, paper, and all that good stuff. So we feel really good about these numbers. Even the decreases, we're going to be able to have, the students will have what they need to get their learning done. When I looked at the 4 goal areas, the first one is that operations, and really thinking about that. Our facility is beautiful. We're in great shape. We've done some really big projects over there. Thank you, Joe, in terms of lots of things. So, our owl's nest is well cared for. Our roof is all set now. I mean, it just really is a great facility. My one dream is to update the playground, but I won't put that in the budget this year because, there's already a big percentage. But I just want to say that because I think that's important to just note that that structure was put there when the building was just for, just had preschool. It wasn't built when, with the sort of thinking that kindergarten would be there. So it's little, and our kindergartners have mastered everything on that thing, and are jumping from the top of it by usually second or third week of school. So that's kind of a dream.
Are there potentially grants available for that playground equipment?
Sporadically, you can find grants. Most schools do it through fundraising, through their PTOs or PTAs.
But I assume it's safe to say we keep an eye on that kind of stuff, and if the potential came up, well, we would at least apply
We
for
can
it.
do some seeking as well, absolutely. Playgrounds are unbelievably expensive.
It's an important thing to have.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yep. And we do access the rec one often, but that's just a lot of extra time with the transition there, so. Anyway, just putting that out there. So the next goal area is MTSSA, right, which is where we're really strengthening teaching and student outcomes. And there, I feel like that's a place where we have some work to do. And I'll speak to that in just a second when I talk about the interventionist. MTSSB is that third goal area, and I just thank you for the full-time counselor. That has been incredibly needed this year. She walked into a challenging year with, and she is incredible in the position, has been really appreciated. So, and then that fourth goal area is community and sort of those relationships and communication. And I feel like we do really well with this, and certainly always looking for ways to do better with it. And we've added that Young Athletes program, which was at no cost to us. We got about $2,000 worth of equipment, and it's just been a really exciting opportunity for a different population of students and parents to connect. And it's been really nice seeing middle school students come over and be a part of that. And we're working on other ways to do that. So I feel like in terms of those goal areas, operations were good, community were good. I want to speak to MTSSA, and that's sort of where, with programming and people, that's really where we have some needs at the ECLC that have a financial impact. So one of the rationales I have in the binder is for a reading and math interventionist. You were on the board last year. You heard me last year make this request, and I really just was asking for a reading interventionist. I've rethought that, and I think that if we had an interventionist, they could also support kids in math. With the new math program, we have really great data, and we're seeing where kids are struggling, and the teachers are doing lots of small group instruction, but we could use more help in that area. So, again, I realize it's a challenging budget year, but I do feel like I need to be honest and ask. And I think that a position like this that directly serves students would be beneficial. We have a really robust team at BES, and Rich has been really flexible. And last year had Keith Nice and May Burnap came over for an hour a day. And so we were able to go from myself as interventionist for part of it. I do 3 days a week with students. I was able to see 12 kids. We were able to double that to 24 students. And the data at the beginning of this year really showed. So I think, let me see if I have those numbers. I think I put them on here, actually. So we went from myself being interventionist and servicing 12 students 3 times a week for 15 minutes. When students got to first grade, there were 37 students that scored in that area of needing more reading support. With the help of Keith and May, that number reduced to 29. So this fall, when we tested students, we have 29 in need of support in first grade. So, that early intervention is just really critical. And I'll just say it again, that I think waiting until first grade to provide interventions for students is too late. I think we need to be really more robust and provide that in kindergarten. We've done the tier 1 instruction. We've done a lot of that even in preschool. The 4-year-olds are getting Haggerty and Foundations. And what that is doing is making none of our preschool students flag on the Acadian screener as in need of reading support, because they're doing it. We've done a lot of phonemic awareness with them, and they have a lot of, they're able to do the rapid letter naming, which is sort of those basic skills that tell if kids are getting those, they typically become great readers, and if they're not, they typically need the help. So we've really backed it up and are trying to give kids support, but we still have work to do in that area. So, I can go through the research again, but I think we all know that, the sooner we get kids, the better it is. It prevents those longer or those larger learning gaps. And the research shows that those interventionists have improved long-term academic outcomes. So if we get kids with interventions, they're not just going to be on benchmark, they can exceed the benchmarks, again, and that's in reading and math. Students who are English language learners that we're seeing more of, students with disabilities, students from low economic families. Again, if they get that intervention early, they do better in the later grades. And then there's this idea of behavior, which I'm going to speak to with my other ask for position. And, the more that we can support students with their reading and math, the better they're going to behave, right? They feel confident, they feel good about themselves, and they're less likely to have behavioral challenges and feel, they're confident and more engaged. So this interventionist, I feel like, would seep in and just really support students. Yeah, it's a cost. It would be a teacher position, but I feel like pay now or pay later, because if you don't do this now, then you're looking at, retention, possibly. You're looking at future intervention help, right? More intervention help is needed at BES as a result. You're looking at needing to support behavioral needs. You're looking at special education referrals. So, we can prevent a lot of that with this position. And then the other thing I really feel it would do, it would allow teachers to really teach. So often they are, and the kindergarten team are exceptional. They do a lot of small group instruction, and they're pulling kids aside who are struggling. They're pulling math groups, they're pulling reading groups for those struggling readers. But it really, there's only so many minutes, there's only so many, which they're one body with a bunch of little bodies, there's only so much they can do. So I do think that all that small group instruction and intervening they're doing takes away from the, just sort of that whole class tier 1 instruction. So I guess in a nutshell, this, my rationale basically for that is just, early intervention. It's where it's at, and can really improve things for a lot of kids. So that's that position.
Is that a full-time position?
Maybe.
Is that what?
That's what I'm asking for. I mean, we could get creative and maybe find somebody that could do it half-time, but
I highly doubt that.
In the budget right now?
There are no positions in the budget.
Okay. Do you have an idea on the cost of that?
We typically, when we post new teaching positions, we put them at a master's 10. And without negotiating the contract, we don't know where that's gonna land. But currently, that's about
120.
yeah. We usually budget about 118, 120 because we assume they're gonna potentially take a family benefit plan.
so with that in mind, knowing that we're already at a high, percentage increase, and, being realistic, but also knowing that we do need some more positions at the ECLC. We really thought about it and talked to the team and said, so if we say we want an interventionist and that doesn't cut it, make it in the budget, what else could really impact what we're doing right now? And the other big area that we're seeing is behavior, right? We've been seeing it, but it just, each year, we just see this increase in significant behaviors. And we do behavior at the ECLC, like that's what we expect. They're little people, they come to us and we're gonna teach them to behave like students, right? Like we do that all the time. But this is like, I'm talking about students that what we're seeing now is elopement, so kids running. We are biting. Last year we had to buy bite guards for staff. Disrobing. We're seeing aggression. Staff are getting, punched and kicked. You know, and again, we're really good at supporting students at the ECLC. I think we do a lot with neurodiverse students. You know, those disabilities, autism or whatnot, like we've done that. But I think what we're seeing nationally, right, is this mental health crisis, and it is not, and it's in the little kids. And so we're seeing more anxiety disorders, oppositional defiant disorders. These are diagnosed coming from specialists. We're seeing kids with depression. We're seeing a lot of trauma, post-traumatic stress disorder, you know, at a really early age. So, so I wanted to explain what that kind of has done in terms of staffing, and I wasn't sure how to explain it. So I made a chart, because, you know, I'm a chart girl.
Laura loves a
So,
chart.
good old Canva.
Oh, yeah.
So what this shows is it's not a you know, well, PBS has and we don't have it. It's not that. But I wanted to just compare sort of and show you the model we're working under at the ECLC. So if you look at this, so in kindergarten for special education, we have a special education teacher, Kathy Clark, does an amazing job, and she has a paraprofessional, Courtney Irvine, who works with her. And that's the model for every grade, you know, that we have, and it's great. So in 1st through 8th grade, you have a special education teacher and a paraprofessional supporting those students with IEPs, and we have that, and that's great. We added that paraprofessional, I think, maybe 6 years ago, to kindergarten, because kindergarten did not have that role. So we've added that, which is great. And then BES and BMS also have these programs. They have a behavior coach to support behavior, and they have a program, Best or On Track, and then there's this other Pathways program, not behavior specifically, but it works with kids that have more complicated needs. So at the ECLC, we have, again, just that special ed teacher and that paraprofessional. And what's happening is that kindergarten teacher, Kathy, is being a resource room teacher. So she's supporting those kids with IEPs, right, who need extra, they need specialized instruction in reading or math or writing. But she's also really having to support these really big behaviors as well, which is, you can imagine, when she's supporting those kids, and those happen sometimes all day long, those other students that have IEP needs, sometimes their needs are not met as they should be. And then also she has Pathways students, and that's this great new name that's, you know, we used to call it the SNAPS program. It's Pathways now. So she has students who have, you know, really individualized programming. They can't access what's going on in the classroom. They're in the classroom as much as we can, because, you know, in Barrington we love to integrate those students, but they need specialized instruction all day. So Kathy's doing all that, and what's happened is her paraprofessional, who's supposed to be supporting her doing that, has now become the behavior coach. So she's working, she is in the classrooms, in the hallways, supporting behavior all day long. So Kathy's sort of on her own. So this is kind of what's happening. So I just wanted to kind of paint a picture of why I think if we could add that a behavior coach, so Kathy could get her paraprofessional back and support her programming, that would have a significant impact on what we're doing, and all these, you know, students that we're seeing come through that that have significant behavior needs. So.
I had a question about if you had any insight into, I know this is a difficult question to ask, but do you feel like one position would be more likely for us to find a candidate versus the other? Is there?
I mean, obviously, the paraprofessional is going to come in. It's cheaper, right? Because it's a paraprofessional. Honestly, Courtney has done so much training and so much work, and like behavior is her jam. She really is like the child whisperer. So I see her being in. She would move to that role, and then we would hire, you know, a paraprofessional assistant for Kathy is the way. If everybody comes back and all the stars aligned, right? If we're talking people
Hold
in
our breath.
positions.
Yeah.
So I don't think finding a paraprofessional to work with kindergartners, people.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think that would be a problem.
Thank you.
I apologize, I don't know the terminology, and I apologize if my thinking is medieval, but are all the kids that are committing, like, what you want to call
Do you mean
it?
with challenging behavior?
Tier
The most
three-
challenging, are they all?
Tier three behaviors.
Are they all identified kids?
No.
They're not, okay, so,
Because they
Our
come into
kids-
kindergarten, a lot of them come in, they haven't come through our preschool program, and they just come as kind of surprises.
so are kids sent home because of bad behavior? Okay.
On occasion, yes.
So if a kid
but our
punches
practice-
somebody at the elementary school, they probably get in some sort of trouble, right? So why are we, if you said like, let teachers teach, why shouldn't we say, well, then let parents parent? If your kid comes to school and starts
Well,
biting
because-
and hitting
Yeah.
teachers, go home and mommy and daddy can deal with it until they can behave themselves.
Well, a few reasons. One is like, right,
That's
we
your
have
problem.
a legal obligation to educate children.
If-
Number two is if I
when they're
misbehave and
insulting
I get
teachers
to go
again.
home, guess what I'm gonna do every day? I'm gonna misbehave because home is, right, home might be rewarding. Home might be just sitting on watching television, on devices, and that's not what we want for kids,
of
right?
course not.
And we're really good at working with these kiddos. You know, we see really good progress. We just need more people power to do it because of the increase in numbers. You know, these kids they're not naughty, right? It's just like, you know, it's mental health. It's, you know, and so I think that's our, you know, we love these kids and we want to do right by them and serve them. And we're, you know, we have the BCBA position, which has been great. So she develops really great behavior plans for them. You know, we have school counselors that are great, so they're helping take care of their mental health needs. But like, when you create this great behavior plan, it takes people to implement it and, you know, and push it through, so. And again, Courtney's doing a lot of that, but then there's the impact on those students that, you know, do have the IEPs and need their small group instruction, and they need support in the classroom, so it's just kind of this
Is that a
domino.
full-time position also? What's
Yeah.
the ballpark cost for that?
Behavior coaches currently are not in the paraprofessional collective bargaining agreement, and they, depending on their experience, they get $5 additional per hour of where we would place them on the para grid. So ballpark would be
50.
about 50,000.
Thank you.
So that's about, yeah, so that kind of is it. Our, you know, again, we've got our lines, our general supplies lines are great. We've got all the things we need. We just use, you know, that intervention, we need, you know, we could help more kids in that, and then that behavior coach position would also have a huge impact on student learning, so.
Any other questions for Laura?
Oh, actually, I do, one quick one. Nickel and diming stuff, on a good way. You zeroed out your travel line. It's only $1,000, but you didn't expend it last year either. Did you just don't use it for anything?
Right.
Okay. Right. And then,
Would you
okay.
like me to go to Hawaii?
No. No, then,
For a conference, right?
but then I also
I get
saw.
2 songs in on, you know, my commute from ECLC to school. I don't go far. The weeks where I don't go over the bridge.
2410-3200-11, your PD for the principal. The budget last year, $3,000. You spent $225, and you budgeted again $3,000.
So I spent more. I asked Deanna about that, because we went to a conference at the end of the year that was $800. So I'm not sure how that got expended, why it didn't come out of my account, how it
Which
came out of
line we'd have
another.
to go back and dig and which line it
So-
got attached to.
So
And
I
our-
did probably I spent more, I did not spend the 3,000, and honestly, it's because I don't like to leave the building, because there's a lot going on, and it's hard to be out.
Oh, for
You know,
sure.
I want to be there supporting kids and teachers, and so.
And I want to make sure you have all the resources you need. But then
Yeah.
again, if you're not going to use it, like, I would say,
I'll use it.
Well, and
this year you try to find $3,000 here and there, it adds
they
up.
have the ability, you know, to go to larger conferences. They just sometimes choose not to, and sometimes
Yeah,
the
some years,
agenda
yeah.
items aren't worthwhile for what their needs are. But
And then what was the one-off for the association dues and fees that, you know, you've always had $800, but then last year you spent nearly $1,500, but you only asked for $800 again. I was wondering if there was,
Yeah, I only did the New Hampshire Principals Association, which is about $800, so I wonder if when I went to the conference, ended up coming out of that instead of, because it's the New Hampshire, because it was the New Hampshire Principals Association Conference, and the dues, I wonder if it came out of the same.
Mine didn't come out of anywhere.
Thank you for
Maybe
clarifying.
it's buy two, get one free.
Anything else?
I'm good.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Turning to Rich. All right.
So I just realized that under the BES tab, the sort of like front justification for the line items is not in there, so I can forward a copy onto that. But, overall, there was like a general overall deduction in the line items that impact the elementary school.
Sorry, I thought you said that your rationale wasn't in here. I was like, no,
Rationale's in
it is in there,
No, just
but
the line
you're,
item.
the line items.
Just for public record, I guess if you will, that most notably the language arts line has decreased significant. The language arts line is
Every time you present.
that money actually overall budget-wise just being shifted to the district curriculum area, but still needing to have some money in that line for phonics material as well as classroom library material. Adjustments to the math line, just in terms of supplemental materials for the new Real Math program. I think the other significant areas, social studies, guidance, and principal supplies, all just sort of fairly minimal but decreases, just trying to roll through the actual spending of those. And then the only one that currently sits as an increase, but pending on board decisions might get wiped out anyway, would have been to put in a line item in the event that we do add a STEAM teacher outside of a REACH position as well. So wanting to make sure we had a placeholder in there for supplies if that position were to move forward. So moving to other items, you know, similarly, I kind of feel like the big talking point for the elementary school continues to be the physical space, which is not in here at all, but certainly is part of the discussion around district facilities. Similar to ECLC, playground continues to be conversation. Starting last year, we did set a fund aside in our PTO budget, and have started earmarking small amounts of money, at least until we're able to do a more grand fundraiser for that, but certainly a playground is on there. And as Laura talked to, you know, the other major impact we have budgetarily are people, and the people who do the jobs with all of the things in the general line. So we'll continue to advocate, as we did last year, to continue to support our youngest learners in thinking about our first grade classrooms, working on the model of the ECLC to have classroom assistants. I'm not going to read the rationale that is provided for you in there, but just really thinking that an addition of a classroom assistant, and also noting the transition from students from kindergarten to first grade, that we should be hopefully at a place where we can begin to sort of wean back the supports, as they get older, that they wouldn't, necessarily, that we should be coaching and working towards more independence. So, looking to add 3 classroom assistants so that they can sort of split their days and have half days in each one of the classrooms to support students and staff with, all things academic, but then also all things related to being a first grade student, and just the transition from building from ECLC to PES. The other conversation we want to keep going and keep pushing forward with is this idea of the current reach position as it is at BES, and what's in the budget book is which is the same information that was presented to the board last year with regard to the history of the reach STEAM position at the elementary school to where we are now, and wanting to continue the conversation that if the tenet of the reach position or something the board supports, that we also want to move forward with adding a specific STEAM position, so that we can provide that level of education and experience for all students. That certainly position adding with regard to that also comes with a consideration of space. That if you recall the conversations we had last year with regard to adding the classroom teacher position, was to continue to have the discussion of space. And currently we have 2 of our unified arts, so computer science, if you will, and the reach STEAM position are taught on carts. They travel to the classrooms. So clearly adding a STEAM position as it is right now, there would not be a classroom space for that. So I recognize that, not only because of the budgetary impact of adding the people, but also because of the space needs for something like that this might not be the time, but I do think it's important in terms of our overall 5-year goals that we continue to have that conversation.
Can you clarify for the classroom assistants, did you say that you were asking for 6 or for 3 that would?
3.
Okay,
And they would split
They would
half-time
split.
in each one of the 6 classrooms.
thank you.
Which one of them positions were? Is it the 50,000?
The 50,000,
Yeah. How about, Rich, what's the STEM teacher, what's that?
So it would be the,
20?
So just to be clear, are you asking for 3 additional, so there'd be a total of 4 in first grade, or 2 additional to the one that's already there for first grade?
so the support staff that's already there is primarily there to support special education, right, the needs of the special education students. So while I think just based on the number and the amount of needs that kids have, I think part of her day certainly she does function as that, but her primary need, so I am looking to add 3 additional people, so there would be 4 total support staff in grade 1.
And how many kindergartners do we have presently, Laura?
I am up to, I think I'm at about 990, 92.
So those 3 paraprofessionals would be mirroring the model at the ECLC, where they have regular ed classroom paras, not a special ed paraprofessional.
So essentially we'd have 6 classes, right? Is that what you said? So you basically have, and the class size is 16 kids? So
Currently, that's what it is, yeah.
90 divided by 6. So we're down to 15 next year, maybe? So 2 teachers per classroom for a 15 student.
2 adults, a teacher, and a para, for half a day is what we're doing.
Just want to get my head around it.
Is it 1 per class, 1 teacher in each class now?
There's one teacher in each of the 6 classrooms. There is a special education teacher, and then there is one special ed paraprofessional. So I would say there's a total of 8 full-time adults. I don't know how it's.
It's in line at every grade level currently.
Thank you.
Yep. Except for kindergarten. Kindergarten has a regular education para in each kindergarten classroom as well, in addition to the grade level special education paraprofessional.
Anything else from Rich? For Rich? You're up.
Okay.
Thank you.
The middle school, the bottom line is we are increasing by about $10,000, requesting an increase of $10,000. Those are mostly supplies or software increases. We're seeing an increase across the board, I would say, in most of our software subscriptions. So that's the bulk of our increase. Math materials, similar to EC and LC, we're asking for an increase of $600. Reading materials, that increase is software, $2,400 for a software program. Language arts, decrease of $1,000. Social studies materials, an increase of $75. Band materials, asking for an increase there because we are continuing to see the numbers increase in band. We're at over 50 students in the 5th grade band this year and looking similar to next year. So with increase in students comes increase in need for instruments and instrument repairs. One thing that I wanted to point out, we had the new computer science full-time UA. So there used to be a line in our budget called computer applications. That is switching to computer science, and Jeff is taking over the computer apps line. So that's not an increase in our bottom line, it's just changing the name and kind of reorganizing where that money is. And then, so I think the biggest increase for our building comes from the principal's dues and fees, which isn't anything to me personal, it's just the line where NEASC sits. So next year will be our decennial visit for NEASC, where we have up to 10 educators from around New England come to our school for 2 days. And that will require a hotel stay, food, and some other materials for that visit. So that's the biggest increase, but I do want to say again, that is only going to be a one-time, one-year increase. That line will go back down the following year. And then for our media software for our library, there's another increase in software there as well. And finally, for our athletic department, we're seeing an increase across the board for official fees, assigner fees, and fees for entering some state tournaments like the cross-country SEL state tournament as well.
So can I ask if you're almost spent that line and we're just through one of 3 seasons, is $500 enough?
That was Mr. Benicasa's feeling for this year. Might increase it next year, depending on how our teams do and that, but.
Now I don't know how I'm rooting.
Well, our boys cross country just won the state championship as a team, and one of our
Nice.
students won the state championship as an
They
individual.
weren't even gonna have a championship, right?
That's amazing, yeah.
And our girls came in second too, so.
And I'm sorry, it's not listed here. What was the increase in the media?
That was software as well.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
what was that increase? It's just not listed.
$1,000, sorry. So it's going from 4,500 to 5,500. So no positions for the middle school at this time.
You have like 4 or 5 positions you could send to the other.
Definitely not.
Ask.
That'd be nice.
Just a curiosity, one thing, what's $1,600 for Spanish textbooks?
I'd have to look, so give me 1 second.
Short.
Oh, that I believe actually is workbooks, not textbooks. That might be a typo on my part. I apologize.
That would make more sense.
Yeah.
$1,000 of groceries, I spend that in a month.
It's like 3 pounds of steak tips at George Taylor.
Anything else for Elizabeth?
No, no more steak tip jokes, Garth, come on. Stay focused, damn it. Thanks.
Deanna, save us. What's next?
He's gonna do the 1,200
A lot at
special
stake there.
education, and then 2,100 just student services, so she'll go through her whole area.
So I'll start by saying that I really attempted to stay as flat and close to our current numbers as I possibly could,
You're our favorite.
taking into consideration rate increases, student needs, all of the things. So there is, some increases that you'll see kind of across the board, but there's also some decreases. You'll also see in my justifications that I moved money really where it needed to be, because we had kind of chunks of money in places that we were using for things. And I'll talk through that, but that's why it looks like there's significant changes, but the actual totals haven't drastically changed. So talking about the first kind of big change is in ESY salaries, where I need to include an additional $20,000 there, which is an increase from $70,000 the year before. Part of ESY had been funded previously from a grant. All of that money went away, so we had to pull that out. We had, unfortunately, this past year, had to increase our behavior support within each building to make sure that our students that were coming that had more significant behavior needs were supported, and teachers had what they need to make their classrooms successful. So that's kind of where that rate increase comes from. We have not used as much money in tutor services, so I decreased that, not significantly, but something, better than nothing. You'll see in professional ed services, there's a number of things that fall within this general line item. It's a total increase of $1,000, and you'll see within those lines, I really just moved money around based on where the need currently sits. So that's how I was able to keep it just at $1,000 increase, and really that increase comes in a lot of our augmentative communication devices and training and support for those types of students that require devices for communication. We contract with Gray for that. So I'm gonna move down to something that is not on your sheet, but it is on mine. The tuition public para cost for last year was $570. Currently, I was able to decrease it to $520. I anticipate that I'm going to be able to decrease that some more. We've had some shifting and moving, some students aging out of our Dover High program, which every single one of those students requires a paraprofessional at this time, along with the anticipation of 3 students that if we don't get any move-ins, that I'm aware of that will require para support at the high school level. I'm anticipating all 3 of those para needs being at Oyster River, but I don't have a rate for that right now. We've asked for both the one-on-one rate and a shared para rate, because I will need both, and we haven't gotten that number back. So Vicki is patiently waiting for that number to come, and she keeps sending nudges. So my hope is I can continue to decrease that, but I'm not sure without knowing that final number yet. So next you'll see in tuition private, those are our out of districts. So any students that are placed out of district, this is where their tuition comes from. And initially I moved money out of, it was all sitting in high school and middle. So I moved into elementary because we have a student in the elementary setting out of district. I put money in as I'm anticipating another elementary need sooner rather than later. But again, that's all dependent on an IEP placement decision that we haven't made. So it's in there as an anticipated cost. I figured budget for it if I know that it's a potential. And then again, I just moved money out of the high school into the middle school line. And then, because we have one middle schooler, and then we have 3 students at the high school level that are currently placed. Charter school, we have not expended over I kind of looked historically, we have not expended as much money as we had previous years. So I decreased that line based on our current enrollment within charter schools that are identified students in the services that they are getting. I don't really anticipate that changing drastically, so I was able to decrease there. Dues and fees is an increase. We've used grant funds for Goalbook in the past. We don't have those grant funds for Goalbook anymore. And Goalbook is used by our special education teachers to support progress monitoring, to support present levels, their IEP writing of goals and benchmarks. And I really kind of drilled our Goalbook rep about what is our actual user use so that I can see if it actually is something that is being used effectively, and our teachers are really using it. So it would be hard to pull away from that. So I asked for a 3-year contract, which decreased the cost versus a 1-year contract. So that is, if we did a 1-year versus a 3-year, it's a $1,000 savings. So I did put it in there as our teachers are using it, and it's an effective program for them. ESOL services is something that we've been watching closely all of last year. I continue to watch it. We have actually had a decrease in student qualification, but what that means is we have more students on watch that aren't actually receiving services. They continue to get the WIDA screener, and they are monitoring them to make sure that they aren't falling academically and don't continue to need that, but we were able to decrease it, so that's a bonus.
What does ESOL mean?
English as a second language. Yep. Speech services at Co-Brown, you can see is an increase. We have a increase in number of students that are attending Co-Brown that require speech services. We also have an increase in numbers at BMS that require speech services. In order for our speech path to go to Co-Brown and deliver those services and do all of the IEPs and to do all of the evaluations, granted an evaluation year isn't every single year, it would take her out of BMS at least a day and a half a week, and that's a lot given the amount of services that we need. So I put in contracted services through SLC. It is somebody, Co-Brown kind of uses them as their staff, but it is an SLC staff member, and all of the districts that go to Co-Brown use that same speech language pathologist, so she is there full-time and knows students very well. So that's that increase there. And then vision is another big increase. It's only $5,000, but we do have significant needs for students that have some vision services, and I want to make sure we can support them. The last kind of big things, homeless transportation we've talked about. We don't have a lot of Title I grant funds for that. We do have some money set aside because we have to legally, but there's really not a lot of money there. But we are transporting several students in and out of our town, and we're cost sharing with several districts, but it is costly to bus students.
I was actually wondering how it could be so low with the cost sharing.
Yeah,
but-
it's cost
okay.
sharing. So we
Okay.
split 50% with the district where the student is actually living. So it's $325 roughly a day for a bus ride. So it's pretty costly. And then you can see special ed transportation. That's a guesstimate. We're waiting on new contracts. We're assuming that that's going to be a roundabout rate. And then we talked about, due to the van not being able to be used, I would really like the Pathways programs to continue their access to life skills outside of the school setting. So that's just a $6,000 increase based on their current use and what I think it could cost based on the rates that we have. Everything else is staying the same.
Can you help me understand? So then what would we be using in place of the van since?
We would have to,
Just use
a
the actual
bus,
bus.
we'd have to use
Okay,
our bus
that's what the-
company to come and drive them.
Okay.
So I'd asked them for a rate, and they because we don't know if they're gonna be our bus company, they were pretty hesitant to give it to me, and I was able to kind of shake them down, and they were able to give me a half-day rate versus a 2-hour rate, and kind of all of the things I was asking
Piecemeal
for,
it
so that's
together.
how I got that number, but.
Okay. So frustrating.
And don't forget, Moira said, I am your favorite person. So,
Yes.
just kidding.
Moira said that.
Might be biased towards special ed. So that's it for you, Katie?
That's it for me for changes.
I just realized we neglected the curriculum line in the 1100s, so we should circle back to our ELA curriculum cycle review.
Great. So I actually had some other increases as well as the ELA curriculum, so just kind of run through those really quickly. Over the past couple of years, I have been slowly taking things out of the ESSER grant to put into our budget, so it didn't kind of hit in one year. But there are a couple of things that kind of came due that we use a lot. Couldn't say the word I wanted to say, so I just went with that one. DESA is one of them. It was formerly in the ESSER, but that is coming due. So that is a 3-year price. I did negotiate that. They said if we can sign this year, they'll give us this year price instead of the next year price. So I was pretty happy with that. It's about a $4,000 difference. Our academic screener for Acadians, because of the RSA, was at 189. That's coming down the pike about ELA and structured literacy, which also includes, by the way, writing and math. So I feel like we're way ahead of the game. So because of our math program, they're going to start including K through 5 instead of just K through 3. So we thought we'd be proactive with our Acadians. We already do K through 4, so we're just going to add 5th grade. Sorry. So you see a little bit of increase there. Our STEM camp. So we didn't have, remember the first year, I don't know, 200 people just like bam, came and wanted to come. It was super popular and people loved it. Same this year, people loved it, but the feedback was that they couldn't afford what we asked them to pay, what the board had wanted us to ask them to pay,
What was it? How much?
$100.
And so nobody paid
A
it?
lot of people couldn't, so it was kind of flat. We didn't have a ton of people interested, so I kind of reached out to people. I'm like, can you tell me why? Like, is it the timing? Because we use the same timing. What was it? And they said, honestly, after kind of paying for all the other camps and all the stuff throughout the summer, it's in August, they just couldn't do it. And I feel like that's a shame because it gives students a different way of learning. They're super excited. They learn different things, different ways. They learn with different people. And so I'm coming in at 28,000. We had some savings this summer, so I kind of hoarded some curriculum things to be able to bring that that number down. We can do 100 students, but I am asking that we not ask them to pay so that more people can have access to this incredible opportunity that we're offering our students. We wouldn't be asking them to pay anything.
Because that was what they said the brick wall was for them. And I saw we had maybe 50 between the two because we did 2 different weeks. And that's about how many people signed up. Where the first time I think we had 136 in the first 45 minutes.
So how many, you had 136 the first year?
Yeah,
And then how many did you have this last year?
maybe 50. So.
Was it run at the same time in August?
Yeah, and we actually offered a second session. And like I said, when I reached back out to people, they said that was the challenge, was that $100.
The $100.
Yeah. It was difficult for them.
Some committee stipends, again, formerly an ESSER grant. We want, I think in the past, the time and the expertise wasn't honored monetarily wise for these committee stipends. So I had them in ESSER and been slowly moving them out as well. You get more people wanting to do it, you get different people wanting to commit to it. So you get different, instead of the same staff doing the same, different committees over and over and over again. So asking for that.
Before you go forward, can we just talk about I agree with stipend, so I'm supporting
Yep.
the stipend. But wouldn't we put that in the actual stipend line? Why would it need to be part of?
It did go over there, but this was
Oh,
just
okay.
like my rationale, but it is in all the stipends.
So it's in that line? Oh.
Yeah, we just decided to put it in my rationale, because
Explain.
they're like curriculum committees.
It's all part of the
Okay.
curriculum.
So-
cycle.
But it's not an additional line in addition to the.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, good, thank you. That also goes for the Portrait of Learner one that's added at the bottom. That's also, I think it's only next year as well, right, Elizabeth?
Yep.
Yeah. But it is still in that stipend line, so it's not going to be an extra line.
I thought that was done, I'm sorry, what is that ongoing mission of the Portrait of a Learner Committee?
I'm gonna let Elizabeth speak to that because that is her baby.
Yeah, so last year we came up with what the skills would be for Portrait of a Learner. So the step now is we've actually spent most of the PD day on the 11th defining what those skills mean and what they look like at each grade level. So now we've said, growth mindset would look like this in a typical kindergartner at the end of the year, all the way through 8th grade. So what each of those 5 skills look like. And then next year, what we're going to do is start developing rubrics for those skills so that teachers can report out on students' progress in those skills.
Got it. Did you just say that the committee met during a PD day?
Yes.
So they did their work during a PD day, and then they get a stipend on top?
No, we're having additional meetings throughout the year after school, but part of that work was done on a PD day with an
you for
additional group
clarifying.
of teachers not included in that committee that's getting the stipend.
All right.
Good catch.
Why is the stipend for the science committee larger than the ELA committee?
So if you turn to this page here. This one?
That's the page I'm looking at.
Yep. So, on the right-hand side, it'll say implementation or pilot year, research year, and, I did the POL stipend. So what we do for each of those years, they require different amounts of hours outside of the workday. And on their contract, it's like stated, this is what, what you're required. It's 16 hours at $40 an hour is what we pay them, and that's how it becomes that. So research is always higher than other years.
I'll be honest, though, I mean, I was part of that initial committee, obviously not receiving a stipend and not meeting for all of the times that staff met. And I would be surprised if that you wouldn't have hit close to that same amount of time if
Yeah.
you're adding in the staff time. I just know that they were doing a lot of collaborative work.
They were. And also that number, I don't know how many, to be honest, there's probably more people on the ELA committee than there are on the science committee. I would have to look up the exact numbers of people. But if you look on the right-hand side, that's how many hours and what some of the commitments are for them. And Carrie is right, they do more hours than
Right.
it's kind of written out for them.
So when it
But then
says
the research
implementation for a
year, yeah.
pilot year, it says 500, that's your estimate, it's a flat that.
Correct.
That put in that
Per
many hours.
person.
Okay.
All right, let's talk about the big one. So we've been working, this will be the 3rd year, we've been working with the ELA committee. The first year was kind of us looking at what the science of reading was, what it was for us, the structure in our classrooms, what the definition was, and then how to move that forward with a 3-year plan. Part of that 3-year plan came with new programming. The middle school, some of them have been like, you know, would really like some parameters, would really like some programming. So we started that process. It was a big, long process. Last year, we had a committee, about 12 people, I think there's a bunch of people. I brought to them all the highly rated programs. They spent a whole day looking at them. We had created a rubric. We spent a whole day creating a rubric of what we wanted our ELA program to provide us with. They looked at the programs, I think there's 6 of them, and we had them all come, it was all virtual, come and present and show us about the programs. And then during the rubrics, we kind of looked at them, and I'll show you the pictures in the spring when we kind of go through this a little bit more. It became very apparent which two to pilot and it was interesting because the middle school and the elementary school separately picked the same 2 programs to pilot. So we've been doing that. And just in time, because that RSA I spoke about, RSA 189, has come down by 2027, you must move to a structured program. So you must follow the science of reading, basically. So what we are doing now is guided. So by 2027, you cannot do that any longer. So again, I feel like we're in a great spot. Math is moving right along because that's in that RSA. And either one of these 2 programs will take care of that one for the reading and the writing. Now the price tag. So that is for 8 years. As an 8-year price tag. So pay once, don't pay again for 8 years. I did ask them to put all the bells and whistles on. So that's kind of what we got, the $570,000. We will have the option, if we would like, to pay in 2 different years. But we need to chat more about that and what that looks like.
This current budget cycle year be one of those years we would have.
Yeah, that was,
So there's two separate things. So that one program, they said we could possibly have some cost savings if we have some money, and I have no idea how much it's going to cost. I haven't even talked to her about it. They call it a 4th quarter savings, so we would pay a bulk of it this year with savings from the 570, and then again in July. Or there's both programs have said, if you want, you can pay half July 1st, 2025, and half July 1st, 2026. So there are cost savings and ways to kind of break this up, but remember, this is an 8-year, it's 8 years. So,
Right, but we're gonna
We're
revisit
gonna
our
revisit
ELA cycle sooner than that.
of course, we're gonna revisit it in
Why would we
6.
sign an 8-year cycle,
Yeah.
an 8-year contract?
I mean, honestly,
Then we wouldn't revisit it, because why, if we're under contract?
yeah. And the cost savings is not significant enough to make that kind of commitment. Right? I mean,
We could ask about a 6-year contract.
Well,
or
let her answer the
5-year.
question.
yeah.
What's your rationale? If this is an 8-year contract and we're gonna revisit it in 5, why would we sign an 8-year contract? What was your thinking about that?
quite honestly, every 6 years, I'm not getting new programming. We're not gonna get absolutely no new programming. Teachers are most likely not like you. But
Well, let's be clear, this group has in 15 years that I've been on the board, this group has never been the one that's determined programming, it's always come from the teachers. So, I take a little offense at, they're not gonna like you, it's never come from us, so. If
I don't
it's
think it's-
changed, it's they've picked it and then we've had to change it because it
Yep.
wasn't an appropriate choice, so.
And traditionally, it's basically every 4 or 5 years that they
Yeah.
want to move on to something different. So this would just be historically.
I wasn't talking about you, I was talking about me. Just to be
you.
clear. Meaning me. They wouldn't like me bringing it forward saying, oh, in 5 years, we're gonna change the program again.
Don't worry,
I would
we give
never
them plenty
say-
of
I would never
opportunity
say
to
they
hey,
wouldn't
that's
like
all
you.
for other things, so it's fine.
Yeah, no, I didn't say that, I was talking about myself, thank you. Yes.
Well, no, so I still don't. Can we see some pricing options? just different options and availabilities, or if we could go back and see a 6-year price, or just something,
Yes, of course.
just something else to look at, just so we can
course.
see comparably.
And that dollar figure's not in the budget yet, that would be added if we
It's in
agreed
there.
to it.
No, it's
That's
in
in
there,
there.
it's in there currently.
Okay.
Staff is
Yep.
what's not.
The only thing not in there that we're discussing is staff.
Okay, so everything on this list is in the budget right now.
I had a question about the teacher evaluation system. Is that the program that you were presenting?
That is correct,
In the new evaluation? Okay.
It's a Power School add-on.
That's right.
And when it says price, is this all increases?
We've never had a.
So this is
teacher
all brand
evaluation
new
system.
spending? Well, no,
Well, no, I mean, because DESA we've been paying for,
Yeah.
but like it's never.
That was in a grant.
Yeah.
Acadians was an increase because of the RSA coming down.
okay.
We want to increase that a little bit.
$500,000 was a big hit in one shot.
Is there any way we
we can
can
do it.
add some of the supplemental information that we're kind of discussing here now, like the fact that some of these were in grants, in the comments, with that last column, just so that we have it to reference, because I just wonder, especially for our ABC, that they can track it when they go back.
So you'd
just
like it on
listing-
this page instead of the
Yeah, but-
rationale page?
Yes, in both, and then right,
Okay,
in the-
yep.
you know how they, for the other, Vicky knows what I'm
certainly do
saying, yeah,
that.
in that last column, just that rationale, so that we can pick that apart.
Like in the budget itself, in that.
Yeah, in the
comment
actual
section.
budget,
Gotcha.
because I
So
do think
yeah.
it will make a difference, especially with some of the high dollar values, for us to reference XYZ percentage of this, or X amount of this was part of grant, now no longer, just so we can help, just make that discernation, so it doesn't look like this is all new asks.
And philosophically speaking, this maybe is I'm just thinking off the top of my head as I often time to do, but if something wasn't deemed worthy of doing until we got a grant for it, and then we get a grant for it, why is it worthy of continuing to do after the grant is expired? Like why, like, we did something because we got grant money for it. Well, now there's no grant money. Is there ever an opportunity?
No, there was something we wanted
Is
to
there
do
ever a-
and we used grant money
Is there
for
ever a
it.
chance that we say, well, geez, we didn't do it before and now there's no grant, so we can't do it going forward? Like, do you know what I mean?
We were trying.
Across the board, I'm not saying specific to this,
Yep.
but I mean, there's a lot of opportunities that we come across that if, we should be thinking, well, what happens if there's not grant money for this? That means that we're automatically telling the taxpayer they're gonna be spending money on this 5 years from now when the grant, there is no
I
grant.
can't come up with something off the top of my head. I don't
I-
know if anybody
I-
else can.
I can.
That is something that we only did because we have grant money.
Okay.
We took advantage of all the extra ESSER funds that were out there to start to compensate committees and improve programming. Like, if you think about the DESA, we were hand scoring, carbon copy, that were taking hours upon hours upon hours, and it was like, oh, great, here's an option to do this in a much more efficient manner. And that program has served us well.
So we didn't compensate committees before ESSER?
Curriculum committees, we did not.
Okay.
So all that after-school time. So a lot of work that the stipend committee has been doing over the past 2 years. And I will say, I was pretty amazed that we were in complete agreement. Sometimes administration and teachers have different ideas on what should be compensated and what shouldn't. So that group got together and said, at first I did a survey to the whole staff, what committees are you currently on? And then that team got together and, independently, we all highlighted in different colors, like what are the ones that we think are should be compensated, and what are the ones that we feel like, that's part of your sort of building culture, climate, something that you can choose to do if you would like to. And we were spot on with where we felt, after school time, when you're asking somebody to use their knowledge and expertise as an educator to choose curriculum, to research, to spend that time, hours upon hours after school, you want that, you want that expertise. But things like, not that they're not important, but things like Sunshine Committee, right? That's an option, it helps build good, positive climate and culture, but, everybody agreed on the committee, like, we're not gonna compensate something like that. That's something a group of people chooses to do because that's their passion, or they, are trying to do something supportive for their colleagues. Hiring committees, we don't compensate for hiring committees. if you have a vested interest in who your next teammate or leader is going to be, then you sort of donate your time to participate in that. But when we're talking about important curriculum decisions, we want our educators at the table with all their knowledge and expertise and time in the classroom supporting that decision-making. So,
And I'll argue that it's not an important contribution,
No.
but how did we populate those committees before ESSER?
they were not compensated. And so what we were finding is people are less and less willing to come to the table and do that work. That's just a shift you're seeing in education all over the place. It used to be pretty expected that an educator was going to spend multiple days after school participating and researching, committee work for whatever the area was. And it's just not happening anymore.
And I'll apologize if you said it and I wasn't paying attention, but if we didn't, this $570,000 is sticking to me pretty hard. If we paid as we went, not how much money are we saving? I mean, how much are we saving by spending $570 this year and being done with it, as opposed to
Year to year.
you pay year to year?
I don't know, but I can find out for you, if you'd like to know.
Yeah, I asked for like that
Oh,
breakdown.
okay, I'm
Yep.
sorry.
No,
I
that's okay.
apologize.
The only thing I can think of is those digital licenses, they go up about 4 to 6% a year. But off the top of my head, I don't know, but I can find that out for you.
And sometimes they don't give you an option. Like when we had Math and Focus, they were 6-year licenses.
Yep.
Period. But we can come up with every breakdown they'll give us.
That's just a huge chunk of money.
It's not uncommon for a math or an ELA curriculum to cost that much. That's a pretty typical cost.
It's still a tough pill
It
to swallow
absolutely.
when you look at, the school district looking at a 9.5% increase without adding any positions. And the town's looking at the same thing, so if both sides of the table sit there and go, yeah, you get them asking for the taxpayers and taking on the hit. And I'm not saying that it should be one side or the other, it should be, it's just, the sad fact of it is
Yeah.
that
This is just outside. So I have a question. So the teacher evaluation system for 8,500 and then the talent management for 2,000, those are both Power School add-ons?
Yes, so one is the evaluation system and professional growth system.
Yeah.
And then the other, sorry, is how we put ourselves out there and attract new people to be able to, Power School
My
bought
question
School
was just
Spring.
if they're both Power School add-ons, that's it, I understand.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
That
thought
was
you were
just-
asking what,
No,
exactly what it
just
was, so I was
asked
trying to
if-
give you more
yeah,
information.
no, it's just that they're both add-ons to our subscription to Power School.
Yep.
Okay, that was the, thank you.
It's a lot of staples.
I circled that. This is pretty funny. They're very secure. Okay, I'm all set.
Anything from anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you very much.
So because Jeff is running the show over there, we would like to jump to facilities instead of technology, if that is okay with everybody.
Dina, sorry, I have a question. Are you planning to go through all of these sections tonight?
No.
Okay. 'Cause,
Absolutely not.
So I think it'd be helpful, like, I think in the past we've done this, is the agenda lists out which areas we're talking about, just so.
I can add that for next time. It's
Thank
on the, so for the future agendas, it's on there, but it is on the budget timeline sheet.
What else are we doing tonight? We're doing facilities?
Facilities, if people would like to jump into that.
Sure.
And then we will break after that, and we'll jump next meeting, the first meeting in November, we'll do technology, and then I'll list out the remaining lines that we need to review.
Cool.
Thank you.
if we could get, just a week or so ahead, if you could send an email of what we're gonna do on the 5th, gives us more time to look at that, them sections.
Yep.
Because I sat there this weekend going, I'll never get through all of that. We're not gonna do it all.
Yeah, I'll list out the codes on the agenda itself. We actually won't have many left after tonight, believe it or not, and then we'll go through all the talking.
Not that we have any public on board, but like that helps them know if they have a particular area of interest.
I think the other thing that helps us is to just kind of get a spreadsheet to show us that, and I'll use staffing, for example, that, you know, this area, we want to add this many staff members, in this area is this, and this is this, and kind of showing us the big ticket items that we have to kind of look at and decide, you know, what.
So those are in each of the sections with the rationales and the breakdown of the line items.
Okay.
And we didn't put staff in because of where the percentage fell, frankly, but I still wanted everybody to be able to speak to what they felt their building needed.
And yeah, but again, you know, I'm a firm believer that you more or less start with a zero budget, put everything in you want, and then, you know, make the rationale that we should or shouldn't do it, and then it's the board's decision, and the budget committee should be looking at what we actually need to have, and what we would like to have, and what we can't afford to do
Yep.
in a particular year.
Yeah, that's been the approach in the past, but when it hit 10%, I just couldn't
I
do
know,
it.
but I mean, sometimes you just have to, you know, I mean, I looked at the first page and I don't know what I expected, but I
Yeah.
didn't expect 10%.
Yeah, I think that's the highest I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that makes it a little bit, makes me be able to swallow a little bit is the fact that default is where it is. I mean, everything's just high. It's incredible. Truly.
All right, Joe, you're always cheap, so.
That is not what I call him.
All right, so for my rationales is the first one that you're looking at is our cleaning services. We're trying to collaborate with down here, and we've worked with this company that came in last year a little bit and did our floors and stuff. So we're looking at those guys coming in, becoming our new company. And for each building, it would be a $30,000 increase on each of those, doing more cleaning as far as burnishing floors, bathrooms,
Your third page.
summer cleaning, thanks. And doing more of a deep clean when that has to happen. That would be those guys. So then, repair and maintenance on all of our buildings. We had sat down and tried to pull some money out to make it a little bit more nicer of a percentage, and it really didn't do much. So in the beginning, I was looking at the repair and maintenance of the elementary school of $74,000 proposed. And that there was due to the allocation of Banwell. We took out $30,000 for that, for the classrooms and the hallway to get redone. When we talked last year about getting that back into a cycle, that was one of the things that came out. ECLC, we're going to propose 27. We're going to keep that even. And we took 10,000 out of that, so that would do away with that interior walk-off mat with the logo, what we've done at BES and BMS. And then the big one is the middle school. And that one there, we were asking for 139.2. And what we did is we took that out and brought that down to 79.2. And that was due to the QR coding and the Operations Hero mechanisms for getting all of our inventory assessments done and the remaining walk-off mats over there. So that's up to you, whether we keep it the way it is or we put money back in. That's one of those decisions for the board to make. Then we have a new line item. We were looking for tree services. I initially wanted to put it in about 20. We brought that down to 9. That can stay where that's at, and that will take care of the overgrowth and the dead trees out at BES. And then our contractor inspections, that line's going to change a little bit because a lot of our stuff was falling underneath repair buildings. So we're trying to get that aligned. So contracted services is contracted services. So we're aligning that a little bit more. And then the new and replaced furniture, we actually dropped that down by 8,000 for 11,000 because things are in good shape.
Can I ask you a question about the tree removal? Because my recollection of our facilities tour is when we were out in the Owl's Nest, there were things out there that were concerning as well.
That's all done.
That's all, the EC is all done.
ECLC is all done.
Okay.
Out in front and the Owl's Nest.
Can you, the BMS windows, so.
Yeah.
Just, I'm sorry if I've missed whatever you talked about last, but it was installed improperly, right? And it's deteriorated over time, or?
So
before we
if,
got the ladder?
in the packet there, that I have pictures of there, you can see where they were supposed to bolt the framing to the I-beams in the
Yep.
cafeteria. That part of that process did not happen.
Okay, and as a result, it's leaking?
So what's happened is, so that was supposed to stop it from doing this
Yeah,
and doing this.
okay,
So by that not being bolted in there, it's been able to shrink, so now we have a gap in the top. We've gone up and done one set of recocking that to buy a little bit of time, but it's not gonna buy a lot of time.
like how much is it buying? Is it a safety thing, or is it just like, it's?
We're gonna find out the next time it rains, because I really don't know.
Not a
What an
safety-
exciting
not a
day.
safety concern.
Not a safety concern?
Not a
Okay,
safety
that's what I was, okay.
No, no.
And how long has it been leaking? It's not new to you, right? They kind of patched it in the past, am I right?
So there was a patch done a couple, 2, 3 years ago, and what it is it's just gotten worse. It's like moved down from the caulking and stuff like that, so it's actually created holes up there. So it's getting in and behind the window and coming down on the inside is what's happening.
Okay.
So,
Not to point fingers, but I'm assuming that got missed 20-plus years ago in the process of building the building, either through the building inspection or clerk of the works or something. I mean, again, it serves no purpose to point fingers 25 years later.
yeah. And that window bank that was in there, it's called a YY2 or something along that, and that is the bottom of the barrel that you can buy. So,
Imagine that the town of Barrington buying the low cheapest thing they could. I can't believe
so they said that
Let's go right over there, the building committee is on a plaque. Let's
right.
take that plaque down.
There was,
Cheap windows.
you and I were speaking in, last time I was here about that's great software to help track much better so we don't keep having some of these surprises, our equipment. Was that this year, was that put in this year's budget, right, or no? No, so is that something that's gonna be?
So we wanted to put it into this year's budget, but that was one of the things that we pulled out.
If you look at your front page that
Oh, I must have
has
missed
the
that.
very front page, it says
Oh.
line 9.5%. At the very bottom, we've listed out the things that we had removed.
It doesn't, it just says the custodial position. It doesn't,
Actually-
it doesn't list the software.
It says BMS, it shouldn't say BMS. It's
Oh,
district-wide.
okay.
QR coding of software, that 45,000. The BMS is my error. It should
that's
say
a-
district.
It should say
That's a
district.
nice
I was putting it under BMS, so that was kind of on me, because
that's right.
she was keeping
Oh, no,
copy of
that's
what
okay,
I
so
did.
that's the
No, it's
district.
fine.
That's the
I got it.
district.
But that would be district-wide.
That's the
yes.
district-wide.
It would be.
I can't believe it's so expensive.
Is-
Oh, my.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they're gonna,
Go ahead.
so what they do is they come in and they will assess our whole district, every piece
Oh, it's
of
not just
equipment. So we have
software.
everything from our HVAC, so we just did septic pumps. We have 4 septic pumps. I found one of the pumps isn't hooked up. So that pump there would be QR coded, and we would go to do service on that, it would be like, nope, it's not there. But it really is there, so
Right.
that's one of those things that we would know now that it's there. Life expectancy of the pump is 20 to 30 years, probably call it towards 30. We gotta start planning for those pumps to get replaced.
Back when the public safety building elevator shaft was screwed to the wall with a hunk of wire that long, and it got inspected 4 years in a row before somebody finally inspected it right and go, hey, why didn't this detector go off and make the elevator go to the bottom?
Is that still something, though, that you're interested in implementing within the five-year goals?
Yeah, I'd like to do it sooner than later, especially if we're planning on going forward
Right.
with other
Right.
avenues
So,
of,
I don't understand, I understand the concept of it, it makes sense to me, but I'll ask the question only because I'm ignorant. That's not the reason I'm ignorant, but anyway. Is this QR coding type of thing, is that something that the town and the school could collaborate on and have one company doing this, include the whole, both sides, and, you know, perhaps save a little bit of money on both sides?
yep, so we're actually saving money. I've been working with this company for over 10 years.
Yep.
And I've been doing it with them the last couple of years here. And what would happen is they would come in and be able to take care of us. They're actually giving us a pretty good discount on this stuff already. And what you guys could do is piggyback off of us with that going forward. Because I wouldn't want to go ahead and say, I mean, if the town wants to go ahead and jump in and make sure that they want to do it, that's great, that's fine. But let's make sure it's all going to work first. I mean, I think it's all going to work. There's no question about it. But we can go do everything and assess everything.
I think it makes sense for the committee to discuss it, and again, I would, you know, I'm.
If that wants to, if the committee wants to do that, what we can do is we can set up a meeting with Alpha Solutions so they know exactly what's going to happen, you know, whether that be with Connor, Jim, Mark.
So would it, so I'll ask the question again, because I
Yeah.
don't understand it as much.
Yep.
So if we were, let's just assume that the district, because it doesn't matter, one side or the other, takes on the whole project and says, look, we're gonna sign the contract, we're gonna do the whole community. You know, we're just gonna include everything. You know, again, I've said this a long time ago, as taxpayers, what we should be concerned about is that if we're getting a better value by, hey, this, and I'll just use the argument that, let's just say it's $45,000 for the school district, and if the town goes out on their own and does it, it's $25,000, but if you included everything all together, instead of being $70,000, it's $55,000, but we only want to have one contract, it would make sense that both sides sat down and said, this is a good deal for all of us, sign the $55,000 contract.
The other thing I can do is I can reach out to them and ask them that question, and then I can have
Well, I
Deanna
think
email
first let the
you.
committee talk about it,
Yep,
and then if
We'll
the
wait for the
town is
committee to come back.
interested, then we can set up a meeting and we can get some prices of whether or not one, other, separate, together, or whatever makes most financial sense, but that's our process.
And actually, then, while you're in the committee, you see if the town wants to collaborate on repairing the windows in their polling
No,
station,
definitely, yeah.
right? I mean,
like
that's
that.
the collaboration that we should be
Don't want
talking
those
about.
ballots to get
No, we don't want them
soggy.
wet, we don't want the poll workers that work so hard getting wet.
Joe, take us away, please. Anything else?
that's all the stuff that I pretty much have.
That's collaboration.
See, God, usually you force me to stick up to Dave Toddy, but after a comment like that, I guess I gotta move in the other direction.
Before we
make
leave
sure he gets home.
facilities, there's quite a bit that needs to be done in facilities, and we're trying to be very proactive about those projects. So Vicki and Joe and I did sit down and come up with a plan, and it's the cover page to the facilities tab, where, and I know that several people have an interest in getting the windows done sooner than later, because we know building costs increase. So we looked at the 1.2 million we have in our facilities capital reserve and came up with a plan on, you know, over the course of 9 years, because the capital improvement plan that we submit to the town each year, we don't go any further out than the 10-year mark, because at that point, so many things can change. So there's, the two windows are the 6-year and then the 7 to 10. So grouped them by those anticipated years, and then just started, you know, subtracting, backing out the sort of today estimates of what those larger projects would cost. We know over time they're going to increase. So you can see that we would have to put, in order to not be at zero, on the back page, you can see the last section there, that as we're, you know, getting closer to writing warrants and finalizing that for the hearing, In order to complete all of those projects within that time frame and maintain our facilities at the level that they are, we would need to look at about $250,000 a year, so that as we continue to complete these, that we're not at a zero balance in that now healthy capital reserve account. And there are a few things that really should be done sooner than later, one of them being the second and third banks of the windows at BMS.
I'm sorry, are those windows in the budget, or are you
One
proposing?
bank is in the current budget, the
So
other
we could do
two
the
are
whole,
not.
so it would be, is it 164,000 to do both banks, or is it 82 to do both banks?
82 is both banks.
So we could take the whole thing right out of the capital reserve if need be? Okay.
Absolutely, yep. So that's why I just sort of stuck that at the top. If we wanted to make that decision sooner than later and do all three banks, as opposed to waiting, then we could have that entire project done over the summer and take it out of capital reserve. And I've accounted for that down below in the
Help
subtraction.
me understand, how do we put money in the capital reserve for that, for maintenance capital reserve?
It's a warrant article each year. Yeah. And then the amount varies from unreserved fund balance of.
So you think if you added $250,000 every year,
We would, again, these are estimates based on
Yeah.
the now, right? But if we add $250,000 over the next 9 as we make expenditures, we would end up with about $270,000 at the end of that 9 years. Now, we also know that year to year, we're able to do some projects within the current operating budget. You know, the board's decision-making historically has been, go ahead and do that project, and we'll wait until April or May to see where our bottom line is, to see if we have to access capital reserve or not. So I'm optimistic that there may be some years in those 9 years that we don't have to tap into capital reserve, and it will stay a little more healthy than the proposed 270 at the end of the road.
just my inclination would be to take the whole thing out of capital reserve now, and then.
Take that first
ma-
bank
and
out of the budget.
Dress this up right here, make it a really nice slide, and just say, we are looking 10 years down the road, and we're gonna keep your buildings in good shape if you guys contribute $250,000 a
Agreed,
year
perfect.
annually.
Yep.
And that's what it's gonna, and people, that's something concrete people can get their heads around,
Yeah,
right?
that's why we played with these numbers to come up with that long-range plan, so I love that. So what our next
Yeah.
regular meeting, we can put an agenda item on to discuss the 3 banks of windows all together and potentially make that decision in the here and now, which will take 50, what was the first bank of windows that's in the budget currently?
48,
Yeah. So then
And
that would
then-
come out of the proposed for next year.
And what's in the tuition capital reserve?
Just under 500,000.
I asked about that too.
Yeah.
I was thinking about
So
that.
we have in the past used it to kind of even out when there's been a big increase. The challenge is that the following year, that increase is still there, so then
Right.
it's another big increase.
And then we would have nothing left in there. One question in reference to the high school tuition that Vicki and I sort of chatted about at the end of the day today that I'm gonna reach out to legal about is, given that both of our schools of record contracts expire this year, how does that impact our default? So right now, the current rate is in the default, but I need to make sure that's allowable.
With the current rate that they've sent over to us, you mean?
No,
This year's
the
rate?
default is this year's rate.
But if we have, when a default budget, if you have a signed contract, then that goes into the default budget, but you're not gonna have a signed
Exactly.
contract, because you need the voters to
Correct.
say. So it really comes back to, again, what we talked about before, is that if the voters go in and say, no, you can't sign a contract with this school, and we're not gonna support a contract with
Right.
this school,
Yeah.
then every one of our kids are gonna go to one school, and it is what it is.
However, we are required to educate our kiddos through
Correct.
12th grade. So that's why I want to reach out to the legal team and say, okay, what's allowable, what isn't, if this happens, then what? What are the different,
Well, what if we could, from that high school tuition fund, because we can only put in this year's money, and we know or we'll have a better idea of our rate, that we can take out from the high school tuition that difference, so that, when we come into, because we won't have the money, the different, for in the proposed, right? What if we leave it as what's in the default, and then we use the capital reserve
To cover the increase.
Cover the increase.
Oh, we can absolutely do that, yeah.
Is there enough in there
Yeah.
to do that? To meet the change?
I think so. We'd have to do the math. It would be close.
In the current contract with OR, 'cause how much did they increase theirs?
For next year, 7.25.
7.24%, all right.
Yes.
Can they, I mean, under the current contract, could they literally come in and just say it's 10% higher next year and 10% higher the year after that?
I have asked for a breakdown of why the 7.24 for
Because
next
they
year.
want us to
I'm
send a
waiting for
bunch more
that.
kids over there, right?
Well, we asked to increase because of the lottery, and so they
My-
would love for us to send a bunch more because their enrollment's declining. And
Yeah, but I thought, no, but didn't they, when they came over last time, Dr. Morris had said that they had anticipated the student decline,
Yes.
so they needed another, was it 100 kids they want us to send? Up
They
to?
are going to be down about 100 over the next 3 years. So at the end of 3 years, they'll be down about 120 students from their middle school going into high school. So they would love for us to send more students. My question out to Oyster River currently is, hold on a minute here. You know, if you're basing our rate based on
Your declining
per
population.
pupil cost, if
Yeah.
your population is going down, then your per pupil rate is increasing, right? In order to maintain your facilities and your current staffing. So, you know, in my opinion, my humble opinion, I don't think Barrington should be absorbing that cost. So I've had 2 conversations with Dr. Schatz in the last week and a half, and I'm just waiting for that
New calculation?
rationale, that reasoning behind that increase, and how they are anticipating doing that moving forward.
And I think it would be important to share with them that, you know, entering a budget, a contract negotiation with them, that your board has got sincere concerns about
That percentage of
that
it.
percentage.
I shared that at last Friday's Southeasters meeting when we had an opportunity to talk.
I think it's important for us to be able to understand how they come up with that rate. I mean, I know.
I mean, I'm not concerned, Warwick's
And
concerned.
I'm saying this was 25 years ago, but when I was the school board's liaison for the city of Dover, for Dover High, and we were in the contract
there.
negotiations, and what it really came down to is that the state of New Hampshire told the city of Dover,
It's softballs checked by.
it costs $10,000 to educate one high school student in the city of Dover. You can't charge Barrington or Nottingham $15,000.
That language is in our contracts
It's
currently.
$10,000, and then there was a small percentage that they allowed it to go up because of the fact that the taxpayers are paying for that high school. So if we're using that building, taxpayers that are moving that on, we should be.
No, that language is in our current
Yeah,
contracts.
that's protected already.
Yeah, that's protected. There's an administrative fee on top of the per pupil cost for, you know, all those things that happen to run a school system. But we don't pay for facilities. Those are all pulled out of that per pupil cost.
I don't, and there again, I doubt if a high school fell in the middle of the field behind the middle school, I don't think we could educate a kid in Barrington for the money you spend in the Center District, or if you did, they're not gonna get the opportunities for the services
Yeah.
that they need to get at Oyster River or.
No, and the community has been very clear at every opportunity that they don't want a high school and they want choice.
They like
They've
choice.
been very vocal about that over the years.
And I think that question, to your point, Rick, has come up in the past, that there are some people who feel like, we should build our own and we can do it at less cost. When I talk to other superintendents who have high schools, that is the going rate. It's a huge sticker shock, but people can access it on the State Department of Ed site as well, once they're posted. It's not out of the realm of, of what we would expect, anywhere from 18 to 28,000 per high schooler to educate a high school student, depending on programming, size of building, and offerings.
Plus, we
Yeah,
would
it's
never
more
be
the
able to
challenge
be
with
competitive with
Sorry.
services. I was just gonna say, we would, even if we did, and even if we had the money, and even if the town supported us, we would never be able to, at this point, provide the same quality of programming and opportunities that.
The variety,
The variety.
absolutely.
Sounds like a challenge.
No, I served on the high school planning committee way back when we had capital reserve, and that's, and like we even looked to, would we tuition-in students or things like that, and, you know, the public wasn't really in support of that either.
Yeah.
So,
I am anticipating an explanation of why the 7.24. One thing, this is a little bit off topic, but it has to do with high school contracts. We did extend Dover's from last year's expiration date out a year at their request. I would suggest that we maybe offset them again, so that
Yes.
we're not doing
doing this
both in one year. So just for something for you all to think about before we talk about it next, you know, do we want, which of the two contracts do we want, you know, either 9 years or 10 or 11, just to offset them.
right.
So that we don't have them in front of the voters at the same time, and all of us having to negotiate them at the same time.
Yeah, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. One thing up.
Oh, sorry.
No, I just wanted to ask, can we put on the agenda for the next regular meeting, discussion about a impact fee study and discussion about warrant article to increase the moderator from a 1-year vote to a 2-year vote to match the town?
I thought we talked about that last
Yeah,
week.
we
I thought you
talked
voted
about
on
that.
that last time.
Did we vote on?
Yeah. I watched every minute,
Yeah.
Rick. I heard your comment
Yeah.
about me not watching,
Yeah.
but I didn't.
And Vicky looked into it, and we just have to write it into the warrant.
At night?
No, I was asleep before 7.
Yeah, so that we're gonna move forward with, and that will be warrant article 1, because that's always.
Are we worried about losing
elected
Ron?
The other thing is.
Are we gonna lock him up for 2 years rather?
Impact fee.
positions. Yeah, we're sad the impact fees went away.
Yeah, well,
They should come back with
so
all the
this is
building
the
going on.
opportunity to do this, especially if we're gonna be looking at $15+ million addition or attempt to ask the voters to give us $15 million. We really should be.
That would be a great topic for our next town collaborative meeting, honestly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the
Impact fees.
All right.
All right, so I had a motion.
I'm making
I had
a
second. All those in
motion.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
All right, good night, thank you.
Next week we meet, or no, next week.